Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another address on the NTE AI situation. Yes, we finally have an official response from the developers in this circumstance. And it turns out that they're actually taking some accountability. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely unlike the developers of Ark Knights Enfield, absolutely unlike Hoyoverse in any capacity, the NTE devs are saying sorry. So let's go ahead. Let's see what the apology looks like, what's actually occurred, and whether or not the measures that these devs have decided to take feel like they're enough. Dear appraisers, thank you for the feedback. It matters to us. Neverness to Everness is built on human creativity. The characters, stories, and world you experience are the work of artists, writers, and designers. AI-assisted tools were used only on a small number of background and environmental assets, not on the characters or stories that define the game. So basically, these are the devs over here saying that AI use in the game wasn't very rampant, wasn't used in the stories or the characters that quote-unquote define the game. Not entirely sure what that type of categorization is. It might mean that they used AI on some characters and stories that don't define the game. I don't really know, right? It's a little bit like loosey-goosey wording over here, probably done intentionally. However, they did come up with assets that are clearly generative AI that they feel like shouldn't be in the game anymore. We're already reviewing and reworking the flagged assets: Clear Skies in Summer and Pink Paws Heist. So this is essentially one of the ones that they were talking about over here. This was Clear Skies in Summer, where they basically went ahead and used AI generative AI to essentially make like a movie poster, a whole goddamn movie actually, trailer that shows up in the game that's obviously based off of the anime, I think Weathering with You or something like that. They, obviously changed the design, hair colors, all of that, but it's kind of like the same sort of deal. That has now been replaced by a, I guess a 0-calorie soda water advertisement beverage. So, yeah. Most could say it's probably looks worse, and it took some of the soul out of the game. And this is a really funny comment over here. The left one looks much better. Thanks for destroying stuff. You do know the devs could have just remade this, but like on their own. I think that's kind of like the main point, is that it was too much work to make this one. It was easier to have the AI make it, and because it's too much work, they just replaced it with something that looks worse. And that's a fair point to make, right? AI is what allows companies to more cheaply, more effectively go ahead and implement, in some cases, good-looking designs into their game. However, what this also means is that Hada, in this situation, is clearly cutting costs when developing the game. And this is where I have a bit of an issue with what they previously said before. AI isn't being used on the characters or stories that define the game. That's what they're saying. Why is the story in this game then so fucking bad? If you're not using AI on things like the translation, you're not using AI on things like the story writing, you're not using AI on things that, are, like the storyboarding of the quests, why are the quests so fucking bad? I would have actually preferred if they announced that AI was being used in some of the quest design, because the quests are so fucking bad, it makes me think that a human could not have been involved in writing it in the fucking first place. The story is the most dog shit one I think I've ever seen in a gacha before. In terms of like the dialogue, in terms of like the flow, in terms of like the background noise that you're hearing, it feels like AI was used in a lot of fucking places in the main story quest and even like the side quests too. And to hear that it's not, right? But they're clearly using AI to cut costs elsewhere. It makes me think about where the budget in the game is actually being spent. If we're using AI, right, to more cheaply, more on a budget, develop all the other things in the game, then why is the stuff that we're giving the human attention, the human care to, the review, all of that, why is it actually shit? And I think that's a question that not a lot of people are going to get a satisfying answer to. And obviously, I think that's part of why it isn't being addressed either. Now, though, this is where we really need to get into the full list of changes, right? As we're all aware, the Pink Paws Heist was a cutscene where essentially you got face to face with this heavily, right, generated AI sort of like breakdown of like Dvorak over here or some shit like that. With the worst offender probably being the fact that he has overalls over here, and then halfway through the animation, they change it to like a vest. Yeah, it just straight up changes into like a vest because of, well, a fuck up that AI did. The fact that stuff like this is A, being used, and then second, slipping through the cracks, and then third, it's really, really, really fucking bad, the AI that they use, and it's also slipping through the cracks, makes everybody call into question how the game is being developed in the past, in the present, and how it's also going to be developed in the future. Because I think it's bad in the first place that you got caught using really bad generative AI. And this is a really bad example of it over here. I think it's also bad that you're essentially saying nobody double checks or looks into this stuff before the final product gets shipped out. And so this garbage ends up getting into the final release of the game. What's the QA process looking like for NTE? A lot of people probably don't have a lot of faith in it, because how the fuck is this supposed to happen, right? Maybe you should, like, imagine if this got caught before release. There's no address about that stuff. And I think the craziest part about this is that while they are reviewing and reworking the stuff, right, they remove that part of the cutscene. Now all they have is like fucking, it's just static and the dude talking. So they kind of went for like the lowest budget fix possible. Again, right, they just completely removed the poster and changed it with the soda can advertisement. And then here they just changed the entire cartoon into static. Maybe the static was made by AI. Who knows, right? This is a response that some people in the space are going to like, but this is my personal take on this. I don't think this addresses the main root cause of why people are actually upset. And the main root cause that I feel like NTE players should be upset by is the fact, ladies and gentlemen, oh my gosh, did that guy delete his post? All right. That Kaido guy actually deleted his post where he shows that the devs were lying. Anyways, I'll go find it. This is the main reason why people are so upset at the devs. It's because the devs basically ensured that they would only be using AI for atmosphere renderings to see if it's the feeling they want, blueprints, stuff like that. And they said that the core assets and character portraits would never touch AI. They kind of just lied if a main story quest in the game is just using generative AI like this. That means they essentially just got caught lying. Your game just released, and in a pre-release interview that your dev team did, you used this promise as a way to sell the game. This is like somebody advertising their fruits as organic, right? They're trying to say, oh, we did things the right way. We didn't use the pesticides and all the stuff, right? So our food is going to be a little bit healthier. We're organic. But then later it's found out you're actually not. People are going to be like, oh, even though your fruits and stuff tasted fine, blah, 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 you lied to us about it being organic. And then when there's like chemical burns on the fucking fruit from the pesticides, and then the fruit actually tastes like shit, then you know they were lying. And you know they weren't lying very well either, because that's what this is. This is lying about your fruit being organic, and this is also having like fucking chemical burns on your fruit too, because you use so many pesticides and shit like that. That's why people are mad. That's why people are angry. And then when you get news across the space, ladies and gentlemen, right? The whole like Iron Mouse and like Maggie Lee situation, where Iron Mouse is essentially saying that her agency got lied to about the use of AI in this game. Like I said before, my stance on AI is very, very, very clear. If the AI is actively not making the game worse, if the AI is being used in a way that strictly makes it better, I've got no issues with it. But when you use AI to cut corners, and then the game ends up being shit in some ways because of the corners that you cut, then I think AI is bad because it's diminishing the quality of the game. And guess what? Seeing stuff like this, where you feel the need to replace it because it's so bad, seeing stuff like this, again, where you feel the need to replace it because it's so bad, that diminishes the quality of the game. Because now I'm thinking these devs don't double check things. Now I'm thinking these devs are not to be trusted because they lied about using AI. Now these devs, I can't take their word for anything because maybe they weren't lying here, right? Maybe they weren't actually lying when they said this, but they had a fuck up internally that turned them into liars. Great, now I don't have any trust in their work processes and how they like deploy and shit like that. Ladies and gentlemen, and we've got another update over here. Remember the statement from the NTE developers? The characters, stories, and world you experience are the work of artists, writers, and designers. We don't use AI-assisted tools on the characters. Yeah, we've kind of like found one of, I think, one of the most fucked up arts I think I've ever seen for the character Ju Yan. So let me gather your attention to a couple of places. First and foremost, what the fuck is wrong with her thumb? So you can kind of see what's going on over here. She's like holding that rose. Like her thumb skin is like turning into the palm. And it looks like this is like a thumb going like down, and it's almost like that. But then you see the thumb actually popping up on the side, and then you just see like all this skin over here getting stretched in such a weird fucking way. And like it looks equally as weird on the non-colored version. But don't worry, that's not it from there, right? Her hand looks really off. What about her ears? Bro, what are those? Bro, it looks like she has cauliflower ear from boxing. That looks like Mike Tyson's opponent's ear. And the placement of them, shouldn't ears be like, next to your fucking eye? Not, bro, how are her ears this low? Bro, what even? No, her ears should be like here. Her ears should be like here, but they're down here, bro. They look like gills. They look like fucking fish gills. She's merman. The angle. No, shut the fuck up. That's not how angles work. No, it's even on this side too. It looks fucked up. No, it should be up here. And then her wrist. Bro, what is that? Is that her forearm or her? A lot of people can look at this and say that this looks like AI. Or this could just be a massive artist fuck up and they just made this look really shit. So it's bad AI or bad artist fuck up. But I think one thing that's very, very, very clear from all of this, right, is that this is an oversight where they just straight up let shit like this that looks this bad get through into the final release. They're letting stuff like that get through. And then they're also letting stuff like the Pink Paws heist cutscene get through. They're letting stuff like the fucking, the Weathering With You Generations content, that goes through. This is the thing, guys. It's a matter of who's approving this. How is so much stuff like this getting through the cracks? Why is it all low quality slop that looks like shit? And why isn't Hada or the NTE devs over here saying what they're changing, what they're improving, and what they're gonna do better to ensure that stuff like this doesn't occur again? Because this stuff is literally making the game worse. And it feels like they're lying again by saying they're not using any AI on the characters. But then, bro, what is this? Are your artists just bad then? Is this you say the artists are not good? We don't Q&A. We don't double check anything. When it's done, it's done. Just fucking put it in the game and let's go. Which one is it? Are you using AI? Are you lazy in QA? Or are your artists bad? Or is it all three? That's still not good. That's still bad. That's still not good for the game. And there's been no address on any of that. That kind of fuck up makes me lose faith in the game moving forward, and that diminishes my experience. And so AI has literally made NTE a far worse game to me because of all this nonsense that's happening with it. The fact that they felt the need to address things, remove things, but then they still, like, oddly enough, didn't really say sorry or apologize for lying or apologize for the miscommunications or the errors in their workflow that turned them into liars. I think it would have been a lot more effective for them to do an actual full address to the player base, talk about what their devs said before, talk about the issues in like either development or whatever that turned this dev into like a fucking liar, right? Over here, because they didn't follow through on this. They used this to market the game and they didn't follow through on any of it. And when you have, right, so many of like the big VTubers in the space, the Iron Mouses, the Shy Lilies, the situations like this, that's not going to be a good look, especially when the narrative has now become, we were misled into thinking that this game wasn't using AI. We were misled. We wouldn't have taken on this sponsor, ABC, done all of that stuff if we weren't being actively lied to by the company. And while this address does get the biggest infringers when it comes to like the AI generated content out of the game, it doesn't address the loss in trust that most people are going to be having in this circumstance. And I think that's going to be a little bit rough moving forward, because guess what? They're now on the record admitting to cutting corners and using AI to cut corners. What do you think any future accusation of like rampant AI use, lack of double checking, any of that stuff, right? How much validity do you think all those future complaints are going to have moving forward? A lot. And this is going to be something that unfortunately follows the game from here on out to every future release, to every other cutscene that ends up looking like weird, every character design that looks like it's not like fully up to spec or like 100% looking good. It's going to affect everything. And the thing is that it's all entirely their fault. Either a lack of double checking or just deciding to openly lie to their customers. And that's a level of scrutiny that I feel like is just going to make any interaction with this game feel a little bit tainted. And that's just the honest truth about it. So hopefully there's a follow-up response to this. I think it's a good first step. It's naturally like admitting fault, but if you're going to admit fault in this manner, I feel like it makes sense to kind of just go all the way, because now it just seems like, oh yeah, we got caught. Yeah, we totally didn't know that those were in the game. Yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for letting us know. We're totally not using AI a lot, but hey, we're going to take out these two big ass examples of us using AI from the game, but I promise we're not using AI a lot. This answer would work if you didn't remove a fuck ton of stuff, but you did. So it's kind of like, well, now everyone's going to be keeping a closer eye on everything in the game. So yeah, we'll just have to see where this one goes. I think that this is a response that might actually bite Honda in the ass in the future. But yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.